Hello everybody, it's Jenn, Scrapbena Creations. Welcome back to my channel. This is the card that I'm going to be making today. I'm using Ellie Loves Coffee by Your Next Stamp, and she is just a cutie patootie little image, and I was super excited to color her up. So another coffee themed card for the month of January. I hope you're all enjoying the coffee creations. Of course, these could be mugs of hot chocolate or tea. I know a lot of you have told me that you're tea drinkers like me, and also many of you enjoy a nice warm hot chocolate now and then, which who can resist that? So I'm doing the coloring here. I started off with the skin tones. I'm using E11, E00. I wanted to give her a really pale skin tone so that it matched with the light kind of beigey, tan, cream, ivory colors that I'm going to be using in this card. I am using browns and pinks only for this card, one of my favorite color combinations. And I thought that this card would also make a really great Valentine's Day card if you wanted to stretch your stamps for holidays. So I'm going to start coloring her hair. I wanted her to have a really rich brown hair color. So I'm using E49, E44, and E43. I'm just doing some flicking motions here, trying to lay in where I want the darkest to be. So the shadows would be under her face, under her little headband, and where her hair is touching her clothing, so that's where I want to have the darkest color. Then I'm going to bring in my mid-tone and pull that out, trying to keep my flicking motion going here so that I'm not getting a smooth blend, but you can still see what would appear to be strands of hair, so it just gives it some dimension. So I am still really working on coloring hair. I find it to be probably the most challenging, but if you don't practice, then you won't be able to figure out how to get it to go the way that you want it to. So I encourage you, if you're struggling with something in your crafting, just keep trying. So there was too much of a difference here between the E49 and the E44. So I'm just going to touch my E44 marker to my E49 marker just to blend where those two were meeting, and this brings out the color much better in my opinion. So I really like how her hair turned out in the end. Just bringing that dark color back a little bit, just to darken that up slightly. I want to leave it very soft and highlighted to the front of her bangs there. For her little hair band and her sweater, I'm going to be using pink combination. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know this is my favorite pink color combination, the R85, the R83, and the R81. So I'm going in with my darkest colors here and just really mapping out the shadows. So the edges of her hairband will be the darkest on either side of the heart. Her neck, and then around the coffee cup and under her arm will have the greatest shadows as well. So I'm only going to leave a little bit of space for the R81 highlight, and that will give it a really pretty soft pink look. I'm also going to do her little boots up quickly. I feel like these could be adorable little pink Ugg boots. So cute. So I'm just doing the shadowing to the sides, leaving the highlights in the center just to make that appear a bit more rounded. For her little belt and the bottom of her shoes, I'm using those two darkest colors that I used for her hair, the E49 and the E44. Just doing a two-color blend here, although I am doing tip to tip, which kind of gives you that medium tone. For her skirt, I wanted to do a creamy ivory light beige color. And so I'm using E53 and E51. I'm also going to color the cup the same color. Just doing a two-color blend here. and then very lightly using the E51 for the lid of the mug, and then blending that out with the colorless blender. So once I got that done, I brought in my white Signo gel pen here to add some detailing. I feel like even though there's ink left in this marker, I feel like it's maybe getting a little bit dry or just needs to be hung up. It's had a good run in 2018. But I was able to get some really cute highlights. I was trying to give her some freckles here. I did get it to work, although this marker was being really stubborn. I'm going to bring in some black glaze pen for her eyes. Look at how that really makes it pop. And then I'm going to fussy cut out the image. She was really easy to fussy cut. So I want to make a little banner for the side of, not the side, the middle of my card. So I'm just going to stamp out a bunch of these coffee cups. I want it to be a diagonal banner behind her. So I'm not going to leave this whole stamping in. There you can see it complete, turning the mug various different ways, having it come off the paper so it looks almost like your own patterned paper. Then I'm using some Distress Oxide and spun sugar, and I'm using the little heart that comes in the stamp set, stamping that out, and I have my patterned paper here. I just used the back of this pink cardstock, which I'm actually going to be using for the card as well, but instead of mucking up another piece of paper, I knew that you wouldn't be able to see this anyways, so stretch your supplies when you can. So this is Spectrum Noir Premium cardstock. I use that for all of my alcohol marker coloring. I'm just going to color up these cups the same color as I did her cup in her hand. Once I have that done, I'm going to turn that pink piece of paper over. I'm going to take a stitched rectangle die to cut that out. And here's how I want this to work. So I'm going to cut both of these out so they have the stitched lines on them. I'm going to adhere this panel down first so it doesn't move when I'm die cutting it. This is a great way to use some of these smaller images that might come in a stamp set. I know sometimes they kind of get looked past just because they can often be difficult to use, but I really love this look of using them as a bit of a focal panel to have a single image on the card. So here I'm trying to figure out where I want my sentiment, and I had it in my head originally that I wanted it to say the most important meal of the day on the top and then coffee on the bottom. So I end up stamping the most important meal of the day on the bottom here. I'm just using my stamp platform because I don't want to mess this up at this point. I've put a lot of time into creating that little pattern paper. So I'm going to use my VersaFine Black Onyx ink here. Stamp that a couple times and get a beautiful crisp image. And then I'm going to try to figure out what I want to do next. I'd kind of resolved to the fact that I wasn't going to get the word coffee onto the card, but I do in the end. So I'm using a light brownie tan cardstock base for this card. This is a standard A2 size card at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have my little Ellie with her latte on some foam adhesive here so she pops up off the panel. And here's where I decide I really want that coffee stamp. So I'm wanting it so that it's on the top side of that panel. I could not pull her back up. I didn't want to wreck the card, so I just decided to leave it, although I did try. And here's where I give up on having it sideways on this panel. I'm still trying to decide. And then I have it so that it's centered in the top portion of the card. And I really love that. I have no idea why I didn't think about that sooner, but I really love how it came out with having the coffee as the attention grabber when you first see the card. So I had a little bit of that focal panel left over, and I went to all the trouble of coloring all those little cups. So I thought I might as well use one on the inside, so I am going to finish the inside of this card. I'm using the little sentiment Sweet Hello that came in this stamp set. There's also a sentiment that says Thanks a Latte. And I'm just going to adhere this coffee cup on the inside. I thought it looked a little plain, so I grabbed that heart stamp with the spun sugar and stamped that onto the card, and there's the completed card. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you soon in another video. Bye!